I was crying in the locker room, raw, ugly sobs that echoed off the cold metal lockers like accusations from ghosts, when the door creaked open, and Coach Russell stepped in, his silhouette cutting through the fluorescent haze like a lifeline I didn't deserve. "Casey, kid. What the hell happened out there?" His voice was gravel and thunder, but soft at the edges, the kind that wrapped around your ribs and squeezed until you couldn't hide anymore. In that instant, everything shifted, the weight of the game we'd just lost, the secret I'd buried deeper than my grandma's ashes in the Oklahoma dirt, and the forbidden spark I'd felt watching him pace the sidelines all season. It all cracked open, spilling into the space between us like blood from a fresh wound. The air in Eisenhower High's locker room hung heavy with the stench of sweat-soaked turf and cheap pine cleaner, the kind they slather on to pretend teenage boys don't reek of desperation. It was Friday night in Eldridge, Kansas, population 2,847. Give or take a heartbroken soul, and the Wildcats had just choked in the fourth quarter against our crosstown rivals, the Hayes Hawks. I'd fumbled the snap on the 2-yard line, handed them the win on a silver platter, and now the team's roar had faded to a drip-drip of showerheads and the distant hum of the janitor's vacuum down the hall. I was alone, or so I thought, stripping off my pads like they were shackles, my jersey clinging to my skin like a second layer of shame. That crumpled letter burned a hole in my cleat bag. I'd found it taped to my locker after the bus ride home from regionals last week. "Faggot. We know what you are. Stay away from the team, or everyone will." No signature, but the handwriting was sloppy, like it came from someone who'd practiced it in the margins of their Bible study notes. Eldridge wasn't exactly waving rainbow flags at the county fair. It was the kind of town where family values meant shotgun weddings and Sunday sermons that thundered about Sodom and Gomorrah. I'd hidden who I was since freshman year, when I realized the way my eyes lingered on the curve of a teammate's neck wasn't just locker room curiosity. But tonight, after that fumble, felt like the town had sniffed me out, like the loss was divine punishment for sins I hadn't even confessed. I sank onto the bench, elbows on knees, head in hands, and let it rip, the tears, hot and relentless, soaking my palms. 20 years old, starter quarterback for the Wildcats, and crying like a kid who'd lost his first tooth. That's when the door swung wide, hinges protesting like they knew better than to interrupt a breakdown. Coach Russell, "Russ" to the boosters, "Sir" to the rest of us, filled the frame. 6'3", built like a '72 Ford truck. Broad shoulders from years of hauling hay bales before he traded the farm for a whistle. A jaw that could cut glass, and eyes the color of storm clouds over the Flint Hills. He'd been my coach since I transferred in sophomore year, after Mom's MS got bad enough that Dad bailed for a better job in Wichita. Russ had pulled me aside after my first practice, clapped a hand on my shoulder that lingered just a beat too long, and said, "Boy, you've got a cannon for an arm and fire in your gut. Don't let this podunk town snuff it out." I'd idolized him since, the way he barked plays with that low rumble, how he'd stay late diagramming routes on napkins at the diner, nursing black coffee while the waitress flirted shamelessly. Now, he froze, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, his gray polo untucked and damp from the post-game huddle. His face, usually etched with the stern lines of a man who'd seen too many seasons end in heartbreak, softened, brows knitting like thunderheads. "Casey," he said, voice dropping to that intimate timbre he saved for film sessions, just the two of us in his cramped office. "You look like hell warmed over. Talk to me." I swiped at my face, but it was pointless. Snot and salt streaked my cheeks like war paint gone wrong. "Coach, I blew it. The fumble, the game, it's all on me. The real choke was deeper, a knot of fear that had me scanning the stands for judgmental stares, wondering if the anonymous note writer was up there, binoculars trained on my every snap. He dropped his bag with a thud that echoed my pulse, crossed the room in 3 strides, and knelt in front of me, knees cracking like old leather. Close, I could smell him. Cedar cologne mixed with grass stains and the faint tang of whiskey from the victory parties he never attended. Bullshit, he growled, but there was no heat in it. His hand found my knee, steady as an anchor, thumb brushing the seam of my compression shorts in a way that sent a jolt straight to my core. You threw for 280 yards tonight. That wasn't a fumble. That was a goddamn miracle you even got us that far with half the line hung over from Thursday's kegger. I laughed. A wet, broken sound. Yeah. Well, miracles don't win state. My eyes flicked to his, and there it was, that unspoken thing. The electricity that hummed every time he adjusted my stance during drills. His palms pressing into my hips to fix my drop back. I jerked off to the memory more times than I could count, guilt twisting like barbed wire in my gut. He was married, well, separated, whispers said, after his wife ran off with the feed store owner 2 years back. But Russ, gay, in Eldridge, that was a punchline for late-night truck stop jokes. His gaze held mine, searching, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the space between us. The drip of a faucet, the hum of the AC, the ragged sync of our breaths. It's not the game, is it? He murmured, voice like smoke curling from a bonfire. Show me. I hesitated, then fished the letter from my bag, unfolding it with trembling fingers. His eyes scanned the scrawl, jaw tightening until I swore I heard his teeth grind. When he looked up, fury flickered there, banked but real. Who the fuck? He cut off, crumpling it in his fist. Casey, listen to me. This town's full of cowards hiding behind paper and spite. You are not defined by their poison. The words hit like a blindside tackle, cracking something loose inside me. I surged forward. Or maybe he did. Doesn't matter. Our foreheads touched, breaths mingling, and I whispered, what if it's true? Coach, what if I am? That, the confession hung there, fragile as a pass in double coverage. He didn't pull away. Instead, his hand slid up to cup the back of my neck, calluses rough against my skin, grounding me. Then you're the strongest damn quarterback I've ever coached, he said, voice thick. And if anyone's got a problem with that, they answer to me. That night, we didn't kiss, not yet. But as he pulled me into a hug that crushed the air from my lungs, his heart hammering against mine like a war drum, I knew the shift was seismic. The locker room walls, once a cage, felt like the threshold to something wilder, riskier. A love that could shatter us both, or remake Eldridge in its image. The next morning dawned crisp, the kind of Kansas autumn where the leaves crunch underfoot like brittle promises and the air bites just enough to remind you winter's gunning for your throat. I woke in my childhood bedroom, posters of Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes peeling at the edges. The quilt Mom stitched before the hospital bed claimed her afternoons. Dad's pickup rumbled out at dawn for the oil fields, leaving the house silent except for the tick of the wall clock and my pounding headache from a night of staring at the ceiling, replaying Coach's touch like a highlight reel on loop. School was a minefield. The halls of Eisenhower buzzed with Monday morning quarterbacking, Casey's arms gold, but his head's in the clouds. I nodded through chem lab, doodled X's and O's in English, offense plays that twisted into the shape of Russ's name when I wasn't looking. Lunch was worse. The team clustered at our corner table in the cafeteria, grease from tater tots slicking the air, but the vibe was off. Tommy Hargrove, my center with the buzz cut and perpetual smirk, avoided my eyes, shoveling fries like they held state secrets. "What?" I finally snapped, elbowing him. "Got something to say about the fumble?" He shrugged, but his ears went pink. "Nah, man. Just heard some shit." The table went quiet, forks scraping like accusations. I knew then the letter's venom had spread, whispers turning to murmurs, turning to stares that stripped me bare. By sixth period, gym class, it boiled over. Coach had us running suicides on the blacktop, the sun slanting gold across the chain-link fence. But my legs felt leaden. Every sprint a reminder of that fumble, that note, that hug. Midway through, Tommy accidentally shoulder-checked me into the pavement, gravel biting my palms. "Watch it, queer," he hissed, low enough for plausible deniability, but loud enough that heads turned. I shoved up, blood beading on my knee, and lunged, fists clenched, vision tunneling. "Say it louder, asshole. Say what you really think." The whistle shrilled, but it was Russ who hauled me back, his grip iron on my biceps, hauling me toward the equipment shed like a sack of feed. Inside, amid the tang of rubber mats and dusty basketballs, he pinned me against the wall, not rough, but firm, his body a barrier between me and the chaos outside. "Casey, breathe," he ordered, hands framing my face, thumbs swiping sweat from my temples. Our chests heaved in sync, inches apart, and the air crackled, charged, inevitable. "I'm sorry," I gasped, but my body betrayed me, leaning into him, craving the solidity of his frame. His eyes darkened, pupils dilating like storm fronts, and when his thumb grazed my lower lip, it was over. He kissed me, fierce, starving, like he'd been holding back a lifetime of want. His stubble rasped against my chin, mouth tasting of mint gum and unspoken confessions, hands roaming my sides with a reverence that made my knees buckle. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the shed spinning like a bad snap count. "Russ," I whispered, first time I'd used his name like that. Not coach, not sir. Felt like claiming territory. "God damn it, kid," he groaned, voice wrecked. "This is a mistake. I'm your coach. This town." But he didn't let go, fingers threading through my hair, pulling me back for another kiss. Slower this time, exploratory, tongues tentative, then bold, mapping the shape of what we'd both denied. We stole moments after that. Late practices where extra reps meant his hands lingering on my form. Drives home in his battered Chevy where he'd park at the quarry overlook. Kissing until fog obscured the windshield and the stars blurred with my vision. Russ opened up in fragments, his own youth, hiding crushes on the wrestling captain while preaching fire and brimstone at youth group. His marriage a cover, crumbling under the weight of secrets, the separation that left him hollow, until I showed up, all fire and potential, making him feel alive again. "You're not a mistake," he'd murmur against my neck, nipping gently as we tangled in the cab, jeans shoved low, hands frantic but tender. "You're the only real thing I've touched in years." Sex came later, in his empty ranch house on the edge of town, creaky floorboards under a Navajo blanket, his body over mine, slow and reverent, whispering my name like a prayer. He was patient, guiding, turning my nerves to ash with touches that said I see you, all of you. Afterward, we'd lie spent, his arm a heavy anchor across my waist, talking dreams. Me to Kansas State on a scholarship, him to finally admit who he was, maybe even leave Eldridge for a place where men like us didn't have to whisper. But paradise has cracks. Tommy's accident wasn't isolated. Practices turned hostile, late hits, jokes laced with barbs. The boosters grumbled about distractions, and then the notes multiplied. One in my playbook, another on my truck's windshield. Coach's pet. We see you too. Paranoia nod. Had someone seen us at the quarry? Followed his truck? The breaking point hit mid-season. After a bye week. We'd won against Salina, 28-17. My arm on fire. But the locker room high fizzled when I caught Tommy and two linemen huddled by the showers. Voices low. Not gonna expose that shit. Coach 2. Town needs to know. My blood iced. Betrayal sharp as a switchblade. Tommy, who'd been my roommate at camp, who I'd covered for when he cheated on bio, now leading the witch hunt. I confronted him that night, cornering him behind the bleachers, the floodlights casting us in stark relief. Why, man, what the hell did I ever do to you? He sneered, but fear flickered in his eyes. Jealousy, maybe, over my snaps, or Russ's attention. You're ruining everything, Casey. Making us look weak. And coach, he's supposed to be one of us, not whatever the fuck this is. He shoved a phone in my face. Blurry pics from the quarry, our silhouettes unmistakable. I'm sending this to the paper tomorrow. Unless you quit the team. The world tilted. Betrayal wasn't just words. It was ammunition, loaded and aimed at everything I loved. I snatched the phone, deleted the files in a haze of rage. But the damage was viral. Tommy had backups. Shares. By dawn, the town knew. Russ called an emergency huddle in his office. Door locked. Blinds drawn. Casey, we'll fight this, he vowed, pacing like a caged wolf, but his hands shook as he gripped the desk. The school board summoned us separately, me to the principal's office, where Vice Principal Hargrove, Tommy's uncle, lectured about inappropriate conduct, suspension looming, Russ to a closed door with boosters, whispers of resignation. That night, in his kitchen, over lukewarm coffee and uneaten pie, we shattered. I can't lose you, I pleaded, tears hot again, gripping his shirt like a lifeline. We'll go public. Fuck 'em all. He cupped my face, eyes wrecked. Kid, you're 18. I've got 20 years on you, a mortgage, a reputation. That's all I've got left. If I fight, they drag you down too. Scholarship gone. Town turns on you like wolves. His voice cracked. I love you, Casey. Christ, I do. But loving you means letting you go, before this poison takes root. The words gutted me, a fumble worse than any fourth quarter hell. He walked me to the door, kissed me slow under the porch light, one last claim, then shut it, the click echoing like a coffin nail. The climax crashed the following Friday, homecoming against Hayes, the stands packed with pitchfork-wielding locals, signs half hidden, keep it straight. Tommy started, me benched by administrative leave, watching from the sidelines as Russ called plays with hollow eyes. The Hawks dominated early, up 21-7 at half, our offense sputtering like a flooded carburetor. Halftime in the tunnel, Russ found me, jersey slung over his shoulder, sweat gleaming. "Casey," he rasped, voice breaking the dam. "I was wrong. I can't coach without you, can't breathe without you. Fuck the town. Get in there." I suited up in a frenzy, stormed the field to boos that morphed to stunned silence as I connected. 40-yard strike to the wideout, touchdown on the first drive. The tide turned, me slinging passes like lightning, Russ's voice booming plays with renewed fire. But Tommy cracked. On a goal line stand, he speared the runner late, helmet to helmet, ejection flag flying. As he stormed off, he screamed it, "Fucking faggots!" The crowd gasped, then erupted half cheers, half jeers, but we didn't stop. Final score, Wildcats 35, Hawks 28. Victory, Pyrrhic and electric. After, in the emptying stadium, under the glare of the lights, Russ pulled me aside by the 50-yard line, the field still echoing with echoes. "I'm done hiding," he said, voice steady now. Resignations on the superintendent's desk. "We're leaving together. Denver's got programs. A life where we don't look over our shoulders." I kissed him there, public and defiant, the last stragglers turning away or whispering, but it didn't matter. The betrayal had scarred us, but it forged something unbreakable. Not just love, but courage, the kind that stares down small-town storms and walks tall. We packed that weekend, my duffel with jerseys and dreams, his truck with ghosts and grit. Eldridge faded in the rearview, wheat fields blurring to highways, bound for the Rockies where the air was thinner but the horizons wider. It wasn't a fairy tale. Therapy waited, scars would ache on rainy days, and Tommy's face would haunt my nightmares. But with Russ's hand in mine, thumb tracing my knuckles like a vow, I knew we'd built something human, flawed, fierce, real. Love isn't the absence of betrayal. It's the choice to rise from its ashes, arm in arm, toward whatever dawn breaks next. The drive to Denver stretched like a lifeline pulled taut, the Chevy's engine humming a steady baritone against the symphony of our silences, comfortable ones, mostly, punctuated by Russ's off-key rendition of Springsteen on the radio, his baritone gravel matching the boss's growl. We'd stopped at a roadside diner outside Hayes, neon sign flickering "Eat" like a dare, and over greasy eggs and hash browns that tasted of freedom, he'd slid a manila envelope across the formica. My acceptance letter to Colorado State, Scout's note clipped to the top. "Full ride, kid." They saw the tape from homecoming. "You're going places." I traced the embossed seal, heart swelling. I corrected, lacing our fingers under the table, away from the waitress's prying eyes. "We're going places." He'd nodded, that half-smile crinkling his eyes. But I caught the shadow, the mortgage back in Eldridge, the alimony bites from a divorce he'd never finalized, the coach's pension that evaporated with his resignation. Russ had given everything for this, for us, and the weight of it settled on his shoulders like an unpadded yoke. Denver hit us like a fresh playbook, mile-high sprawl of brick lofts and microbreweries, the Rockies' jagged teeth on the horizon, air crisp with pine and possibility. We crashed at a buddy's couch, a former teammate from Russ's college days, now a PE teacher with a beer gut and zero questions, while we hunted apartments. The first place we toured was a shoebox in Lodo. Exposed brick, creaky floors, a view of Union Station's clock tower that chimed midnight like a benediction. Ours, Russ declared, signing the lease with a flourish that hid his trembling hand. That night, we christened it properly, not frantic like before, but unhurried, bodies mapping new territories under the slanted skylight. His whispers in my ear a litany of futures. Coaching gigs in the suburbs, me grinding through summer sessions, lazy Sundays with coffee and the Post sports page. But cracks spiderwebbed early. Russ landed a job at a rec center, drilling fundamentals into inner-city kids with more heart than gear, but the hours ground him down, echoes of Eldridge's judgments in every missed layup or sullen stare. I catch him at dawn, staring out the window at the alley cats scrapping over dumpsters, jaw set like he was calling a 2-minute drill against regret. You miss it, I'd say, not a question, sliding behind him to wrap arms around his waist, chin on his shoulder. He'd lean back, hand covering mine. Miss the wins, maybe. Not the bullshit. But his eyes said otherwise, the farm boy core that thrived on routine, on being the rock. Me, college was a whirlwind. Lectures on biomechanics that blurred with hangovers, parties where rainbow flags flew free but hookups felt hollow without his steady gaze. I dove into the scene, pride mixers at the alumni hall, apps buzzing with faceless torsos, but always bailed early. Texting Russ home soon from the light rail, craving his laugh lines over strobe lights. The first real fracture came in November, frost painting the Platte River silver, when Eldridge clawed back via email. Tommy's uncle, the VP, forwarding a concerned citizen chain. Blurry Corey pics recirculated, now with captions twisting our story into tabloid sleaze. Predatory coach corrupts star QB. Russ's phone blew up, old boosters leaving voicemails laced with venom, his ex-wife's lawyer sniffing for leverage in the divorce. He slammed the device against the counter, screen spiderwebbing, and stormed out into the sleet, returning hours later soaked and silent, smelling faintly of bourbon from a dive bar off Colfax. We fought that night, ugly, voices echoing off the brick like ricochets. You said we'd leave it behind, I yelled, pacing the loft's confines, feeling caged again. But you're letting them in, Russ. Every glare, every call, it's like we're still under that goddamn scoreboard. He slumped on the futon, head in hands, voice muffled. I'm not the kid here, Casey. I've got history, debts, a name that's mud back home. You think I want this haunting us? But running doesn't erase it. It just follows like a bad hitchhiker. I knelt before him, echoing that locker room night, hands on his knees. Then fight with me. Not against me. Our kiss was salt and storm. Make-up sex that left bruises blooming like accusations. But in the afterglow, tangled sheets, he confessed the deeper cut. Shame, not at us, but at the years wasted hiding. The marriage built on lies. The coach who'd preached integrity while burying his own truth. Therapy helped. Joint sessions with a no-nonsense shrink named Maria, her office smelling of chamomile and dog-eared self-help tomes. She unpacked us layer by layer. My abandonment wounds from Dad's ghosting, Russ's internalized fire and brimstone from a Baptist upbringing that branded love like ours as sin. Betrayal isn't just external, she'd say, scribbling notes. It's the voice in your head echoing the towns. Homework, date nights, no phones, letters to our younger selves, forgiving the hides. Holiday lights twinkled by December, transforming Larimer Square into a wonderland of twinkling garlands and mulled wine vendors. We played tourists, ice skating at the pavilion, where Russ, all farm boy grace, pulled me into spins that left us breathless and laughing, my ass bumping his thighs in teasing proximity. One night, under the glow of a massive tree, he dropped to one knee, not proposal, but a vow, a simple silver band, etched with coordinates of that quarry overlook. Not marriage. Not yet, he said, sliding it on my finger, voice rough. But a promise. You're my home, Casey. Wherever this road bends. Tears pricked. Joy. This time, and I hauled him into an alley kiss. Public but pocketed. The city's pulse thrumming approval. Felt like victory. A touchdown in overtime. Spring thawed the Rockies. Snowmelt rushing gutters like pent-up confessions. My stats soared, varsity starter by March. Heisman whispers in the coaching staff's huddles. And Russ's rec kids bloomed. One scrappy point guard earning a D1 look. We built rituals. Sunday runs along Cherry Creek Trail. His steady strides sinking mine. Cooking disasters in the loft. Burnt enchiladas dissolving into takeout and Netflix. Bodies curled on the couch. His fingers tracing lazy patterns on my thigh. But betrayal's echo lingered. Insidious. A letter arrived in April. Postmarked Eldridge. Tommy. In shaky script. Apologizing. I was scared. Man. Dad's church. The pressure. I leaked the pics to feel big. Ruined everything. Hope you're good. Attached. A news clipping of his expulsion. Assault charges from a bar fight. Life derailing like a snapped route. Russ read it first, crumpling it with a curse. Kid's poison, he muttered. But I saw the crack. Pity. Maybe. For the boy we'd both been. Trapped in that town's vice. We burned it in the sink. Flames dancing blue. But the ash clung. Climax brewed in May. Recruitment season. Scouts swarmed. Nebraska. OU, but the big fish was Michigan. Flying me out for a campus tour. All big house glory and maize and blue banners. Russ drove me to the airport. Lodo's skyline shrinking in the mirrors. His goodbye kiss fierce at the curb. Knock 'em dead. QB. I'll be here. Holding the fort. The visit was surreal. Tailored suits. Film breakdowns. The works. But midway through a steak dinner with the AD, my phone buzzed. Russ. Terse. Call me. Now. Heart slamming. I excused myself to the balcony. City lights sprawling below like scattered plays. His voice was wrecked. Background noise, a siren's wail. Casey. Accident. Rec center van. Slid on black ice. One of the kids. He's gone. Jamal. The point guard. The words hollowed me out. Grief punching through the miles. I'm at the hospital. They need statements. Fuck. Kid. It's bad. I caught the red eye. Landing to a dawn Denver smeared gray with rain. Russ met me in the ER waiting room. Hollow-eyed. Scrubs borrowed from a nurse. Jamal's blood, metaphorical, but staining smeared on his soul. We collapsed into plastic chairs. My arm around him as he shattered. Sobs muffled in my shoulder. The man who'd anchored me now adrift. I pushed him too hard, he whispered. Extra drills. That van run. If I'd said no. Betrayal. Again, not from Tommy, but from fate. From the hubris of thinking we'd outrun the world's cruelties. The next days blurred. Vigils with the kids. Painting murals on the rec center wall. Jamal's jersey number 22 in bold gold. Funerals where Russ eulogized with a father's broken grace. Voice cracking on He Had Wings. I deferred Michigan. Stayed for summer ball at state. But the rift widened. Russ withdrew, coaching with a ghost's fervor. Nights spent staring at the ceiling while I traced his scars, whispering we're enough. The storm peaked in June, solstice sun baking the city, when Maria called a crisis session. In her office, fans whirring lazy, she laid it bare. Grief's a thief, but so is fear. Russ, you're mourning more than Jamal. It's the boy you couldn't save in Eldridge, the life you buried. Casey, you're holding the weight alone. Afraid if you bend, you'll break him too. He cracked open there, on her worn couch. Admissions of panic attacks in the van's shadow. Dreams where Eldridge swallowed us whole. The terror that loving me meant dooming me to his fractures. I confessed my own, resentment bubbling. Nights scrolling apps not for escape but validation. Wondering if I was enough to heal him. We emerged raw. Recommitted grief groups for Russ. Me journaling the ugly parts. Dates enforced with ferocity. Hikes in Rocky Mountain National Park, where elk bugled at dusk and we'd fuck under stars. Reclaiming bodies as sanctuaries. Jamal's memorial fund grew. A scholarship in his name. And coaching Jamal's little brother became Russ's North Star. By fall, as leaves turned crimson on the aspens, we'd stitched stronger. My ring joined by his matching band. Simple vows exchanged in Maria's garden. Petunias blooming defiant, her as witness. Eldridge faded to postcards, neutral ones, from Dad. Awkward olive branches, and Tommy's silence a mercy. Love, we learned, isn't linear. It's a gridiron pocked with divots, where betrayal teaches footing, conflict builds muscle, and the rush after the whistle arm in arm, bruised but unbroken is the true score. Autumn in Denver wrapped us in amber haze, the air sharp with turning aspens and the distant tang of snow from the peaks. But inside our loft, the world felt softer, burnished by the routines we'd carved like scrimmage lines on fresh sod. I'd enrolled at Metro State for a lighter load, communications major, football scholarship intact, allowing mornings tangled in sheets with Russ, his snores rumbling like thunder rolling off the front range. We'd wake to the aroma of his overbrewed coffee, black as midnight oil, and I'd tease him about the pot stains, earning a swat on the ass and a kiss that tasted of futures unspooled. Russ's gig at the rec center evolved. After Jamal, he revamped the program, mandatory mental health check-ins, team-building ropes courses in the foothills that left kids muddy and grinning. You're good at this, old man, I'd say over dinner, chopsticks clacking against takeout boxes, his foot hooked around my ankle under the table. Turning pain into plays, he'd shrug, that humble farm boy flush creeping up his neck. Just paying forward what you gave me, slugger. Our nights deepened. Slow dances in the kitchen to Coulter Wall on the Bluetooth speaker. His hands splayed on my hips guiding the sway. Movie marathons where Friday night lights hit too close. Pausing for debates on Dylan versus Eldridge. His laugh vibrating through me like a perfect spiral. But the past wasn't done clawing back. October brought a call from an Eldridge number. Russ's sister, Lila. Voice tentative over the crackle of bad connection. Russ, it's been, God, years. Dad's sick. Pancreatic. Docs give him months. Silence stretched. Taut as a goal line stand. And I watched his face crumple. The man who'd faced down boosters and grief now felled by family ties nodded in judgment. He hung up, staring at the phone like it had sprouted thorns. Won't go, he muttered, but the lie hung heavy. That week, tension simmered, snapped towels after showers, Silences at breakfast where forks scraped like accusations. Pushed. Gentle at first. Bury the hatchet, Russ. For you, not them. But it escalated in a blowout over pork chops. Him slamming the plate down. Gravy splattering like blood. You don't get it. Casey, they disowned me when I came out. After the divorce. The rumors. Dad called me an abomination from his pulpit. Now he wants absolution on his deathbed? Fuck that. I reached for him, but he recoiled, storming to the balcony, city lights mocking our fracture. Hours later, he returned, eyes red-rimmed, and we made up in the dark, desperate, clawing, his body over mine a plea for anchor. I can't lose you to this, I whispered post-climax, sticky and spent. But you can't lose yourself either. The conflict peaked at week's end. Lila's follow-up, pleading. He's asking for you, Russ. Says he was wrong. And a package arriving, Dad's Bible, dog-eared at Leviticus. A note tucked in, forgive as you're forgiven, son. Russ shattered it against the wall, pages fluttering like wounded birds. And we fought again. Me advocating grace, him armored in scars. It's betrayal all over, he roared. They built me to hide, then blame me for breaking. I held firm, voice steady. Then break the cycle. Go. Say your piece, hate, love, whatever. But come back whole. He relented, booking a flight, leaving me with the loft's echoes and a knot of fear that this trip would unmoor us. He returned changed, gaunt, but lighter, beard unkempt from hospital vigils. Over airport coffee, he spilled the deathbed reconciliation, halting and tear-streaked. Dad's whisper, I was afraid, boy. Afraid of hell, of losing you to it. And Russ's raw forgiveness. Not absolution, but release. It's not fixed, he admitted, hand engulfing mine across the sticky table. But it's human. Flawed. Like us. Winter blanketed Denver in white, muffling the world to a hush that amplified our intimacies. We hosted our first holiday, Thanksgiving for the rec kids. Mismatched folding tables groaning under turkey and fixings. Jamal's little brother carving with solemn pride. Russ's eyes shone, carving the bird with surgeon's precision. And later, as snow swirled outside, we'd retreat to the bedroom, bodies warming under flannel, his mouth tracing collarbones like sacred text. Romance bloomed in the cold. A surprise weekend at a cabin near Estes Park, stone fireplace crackling, elk silhouetted against moonlit meadows. There, under a quilt stitched with wildflowers, he proposed properly, not on knee, but nestled close, ring box creaking open to a gold band etched always forward. Marry me, Casey, not for the town, or the law, just us. Building what they couldn't break. Tears blurred the firelight. I said yes with a kiss that sealed it. Our lovemaking a vow slow grinds, gasps echoing off log walls. His name a mantra on my lips. We planned small. Courthouse in spring. Then a backyard bash with Maria officiating. Rec kids as ring bearers. But drama lurked in the thaw. Spring training brought scouts sniffing again, now with baggage, whispers of off-field issues from Eldridge leaks. My agent, a slick Denver type named Vic, warned over IPAs at a brew pub. Clean it up, kid. NFL doesn't draft scandals. Russ bristled at home, pacing the loft. Let him talk. You're gold. Yet doubt crept, a slow poison. A party at a teammate's off-campus house, kegs flowing, bass thumping. Turned treacherous when a rival recruit cornered me in the kitchen. Breath beery. Heard about your coach husband thing. That why you transferred. Daddy issues. Laughter from the doorway. Phones out. And I shoved him. Glass shattering. Storming into the night. Hail pelting like judgment. Russ found me blocks away. Soaked and shaking on a bus stop bench. In the truck. He didn't pry, just drove. Hand on my thigh. Until we hit a 24-hour diner. Neon buzzing open. Over pie and silence. I unloaded. The fear that our love was a liability. Chaining me to whispers instead of wins. What if I drag you down too? I choked. Fork mangling crust. He fixed me with that storm cloud gaze. Voice low thunder. Then we drag each other up. Remember homecoming? They booed. We scored. His hand covered mine. Thumb circling the band. This isn't baggage, Casey. It's ballast. Keeps us steady in the shitstorm. Summer scorched in. Practices brutal under the unrelenting sun. But our bond tempered like steel in forge. We volunteered at Pride, Russ manning a booth on sports allyship. Me tossing footballs to queer kids. Their eyes wide with possibility. One evening, as floats rolled down Colfax, rainbows arcing against thunderheads, we danced in the street. Sweaty, silly, his arms my shelter as confetti rained. Yet betrayal's ghost stirred once more. Vic called with a tip. An Eldridge blogger dredging old dirt, twisting our story into clickbait, fallen coach's grooming scandal. Shares spiked, scouts cooled, and Russ, defiant, went nuclear, penning an op-ed for the Post. Raw, unfiltered, outing our journey from locker room tears to mountain vows, calling out small-town bigotry as the real predator. It went viral, shares from Glad. Backlash from Kansas trolls, but the tide shifted, my draft stock rebounding on the wave of authenticity. Climax crested in July. Draft eve. As we hiked Mount Falcon trail dusty, vistas sprawling to plains. At the summit, wind whipping, Russ pulled me close, ring glinting. Whatever pick they call, you're mine first. We made love in the pines below, earth cradling us, his body a map of home, freckles like constellations, scars like stories. The call came at dawn, third round, to the Broncos, no dream franchise, but home, mile-high miracle. Celebrations blurred, team dinner, Russ beaming like a proud papa, but the real high was crashing home, popping champagne in the loft. Bodies slick and celebrating, his praise in my ear a sweeter draft notice. Through it all, the humanism rooted deep, love as verb, not noun, forging from fractures, betrayal the chisel that carved our shape. We weren't unbroken. We were mended, gold-veined kintsugi, stronger at the seams. The Broncos facility loomed like a coliseum of glass and steel on the edge of Englewood, its fields of verdant promise under Colorado's relentless blue, and stepping onto that turf for rookie minicamp felt like crossing into myth. Me, Casey Harlan, Eldridge's prodigal son, clipboard in hand, vets eyeing the fresh meat with predatory grins. Russ dropped me curbside that first morning, his truck idling with a rumble that matched my gut churn. "Own it, QB," he said, leaning across the console for a kiss that lingered, salt-laced from our rushed goodbye fuck. "You're not just playing, you're proving." I nodded, throat tight, and jogged inside, the weight of his words and the ring hidden under my tape, propelling me through drills. Coach Sean Payton barked adjustments with that Louisiana drawl. but his eyes lingered approvingly on my footwork, a far cry from Eldridge's scowls. By week's end, I'd earned reps with the twos, slinging lasers that drew whistles, and the locker room banter flowed easy, no whispers, just razzying about my mountain man beard, courtesy of Russ's grooming habits. Home was sanctuary. The loft expanded to a two-bedroom in Washington Park, lake views and dogwood blooms framing our mornings. Russ quit the rec center for an assistant coaching spot at AD2 school in Boulder, commutable, flexible, drilling wideouts with the same fire that ignited me. Evenings, we'd grill on the balcony, steaks charred just shy of ruin, his stories of campus hijinks blending with my tales of hazing rituals that involved more beer than brutality. Sex evolved too, less urgent, more exploratory. Lazy Sundays with him topping from below, my hands pinning his wrists, or weeknights where I'd ride him slow, drawing out moans like symphonies, his gaze locked on mine, whispering love you like a secret play. But fame's glare cast long shadows. Preseason hype built, local rags dubbing me the Heartland heartthrob, profiles glossing over Eldridge with small-town grit, and with it, scrutiny. Paparazzi lurked outside our favorite brewpub, snapping Russ mid-laugh. Headlines twisting, Broncos stars mystery man? We laughed it off at first, posing exaggerated for the lenses, but the intrusion festered. A national sports podcast invited me on Diversity in the NFL, from closet to end zone, and I nailed it. Voice steady recounting the locker room hook. Tommy's betrayal. Russ's anchor. Views soared. But so did the hate. Trolls flooding my mentions with slurs. A death threat that had security at Dove Valley on alert. Russ bore it stoic. But I saw the toll. Nights he'd wake thrashing from dreams of Eldridge mobs, or skip my games for scouting trips that smelled of avoidance. You're the star now, he'd say, deflecting over post-game takeout, his smile not reaching those storm eyes. Don't need an old coach cramping your style. The rift widened in October. By week, when we escaped to Vail, condo rental with a hot tub steaming against alpine chill. Ski slopes empty preseason. We intended romance. Fondue dinners, trail runs that left us panting and playful, tumbling into down comforters for hours of skin-slapping bliss. But mid-hike, elevation thinning the air, it erupted. I'd gotten an offer, endorsement deal with a queer-friendly athletic wear line, photo shoot in LA, and mentioned it casual, over trail mix. 2 days. Tops. You could come. No. Flat. Final. He stopped on the switchback, sweat beading his temple, turning to face me with arms crossed like goalposts. Casey, this life's yours now, red carpets, Gatorade ads. I'm the baggage they drag up, the grooming whisper. Let me stay in your shadow. Hurt flared hot. Shadow? Fuck that, Russ. You're my foundation. Or have you forgotten the quarry? The vows. Words escalated. Me accusing him of self-sabotage. Him hurling my fame blindness back. The fight culminating in a shove that sent him stumbling into scree. Rocks skittering like accusations. We hiked back silent. Miles of tension coiling tighter than a blitz package. That night, in the condo, we circled like wary linemen. Dinner untouched. TV droning ESPN highlights of my latest TD pass. Bed was a demilitarized zone. Backs turned. The space between us a chasm wider than the Gore Range. Morning brought contrition. Coffee brewing. Him at the stove flipping pancakes with apologetic precision. I panicked, he admitted. sliding a plate over, syrup pooling golden. Seeing you shine terrifies me. What if I'm the fumble that costs you the Super Bowl? I pulled him onto the stool, straddling his lap, hands framing his face, stubble rough, eyes vulnerable. Then we recover together. No shadows, no baggage, just us, calling audibles. The kiss ignited, pancakes forgotten, leading to the hot tub where steam cloaked our reconciliation. Water lapping, his hands gripping my hips as I sank onto him, rhythm syncing with our breaths. Forgiveness sealed in gasps and I love yous murmured against slick skin. Back in Denver, we fortified, couples counseling with a sports psych. Sessions blending playbooks with vulnerability drills, role-playing media storms, scripting responses to betrayal's echoes. Russ came out fully on his terms, a quiet Instagram post, photo of us at the lake, caption 20 years hiding, 1 lifetime loving, out and proud. Backlash hit, old teammates unfollowing, a sponsor waffling, but support flooded. Fans at my games waving Russ and Casey signs, a rec league naming a field after Jamal in solidarity. Winter gripped again, playoffs looming like a fourth-quarter drive, my arm carrying the Broncos to wildcard contention. But conflict crested in January, AFC divisional at home against the Chiefs. Arrowhead's echo in my veins, Mahomes a mirror of what I could be. Pre-game, Russ cornered me in the tunnel, away from the roar. Win or lose, you're my MVP. His kiss was talisman, fierce and fleeting. The game was apocalypse, down 24-10 at half, Mahomes carving us like butter. I took hits that rattled ribs, but Russ's voice, via headset relay from the box, cut through, eyes up, heart forward. You've got this. Third quarter, we clawed back. My slant to Cortland Sutton for 6. A strip sack fumble returned for TD. Overtime, no field goal bullshit. I dropped back, saw the seam, and aired it 60 yards. Fingertip grab in the end zone. 31-28. Mile High erupting like Judgment Day. Post-game, confetti blizzard. Russ crashed the field, unauthorized. But who cared? Hauling me into a bear hug that drowned out the din. Cameras flashed, but it was his whisper. Proud doesn't cover it. That scored the win. Spring bloomed with wedding fever. May courthouse nuptials. Us in slim-fit khakis and tees. Maria beaming as we exchanged bands. Now matching sets. Engraved always forward/always home. Reception at the park. Picnic blankets. Rec kids grilling dogs. Lila flying in with tentative hugs. Even a card from Tommy. Cleaned up. Coaching JV in Wichita. Amends in ink. Yet drama simmered beneath bliss. A documentary crew approached ESPN's 30 for 30 on Queer Gridiron. From Eldridge to End Zone. Offering catharsis but dredging graves. Filming meant reliving. Locker room recreations that had me sweating triggers. Interviews where Russ choked on Dad's deathbed grace. My voice cracking on Tommy's face in the stands. Betrayal resurfaced in edits. Producers pushing scandal angles. Us fighting for the romance. The humanism. Climax hit premiere night. TCL Chinese theater glitz clashing with our flannel souls. Red carpet flashes blinded. Questions barbed. Was it grooming? Russ's arm steel around my waist. My retort clipped. It was love. The rest is noise. Inside, the film unspooled, raw, redemptive, ending on our wedding kiss, and applause thundered, tears streaking cheeks. But post-screening, a producer cornered us. Leaked outtakes. twisted to imply favoritism in my signing. Rage boiled. We walked, deal be damned, emerging into LA night air thick with jasmine and vindication. Back in Denver, the backlash boomeranged, petition for the full cut. Glad endorsements, and we rose, voices amplified, turning betrayal to beacon. Through it, our love deepened. Anniversaries marked with quarry recreations. Picnics under Kansas stars when we visited Lila. Lazy fucks in the park house we bought. Lake lapping as he took me slow. Eyes locked in eternal snap count. Humanism thrived, not perfection, but persistence. Scars as signposts to grace. Years folded like a well-worn playbook. Seasons blending into a montage of highs and hashes. My third year as Broncos starter. Pro Bowl nods stacking like trophies. Russ climbing to head coach at CU Boulder. His buffs running my old option schemes with mountain grit. We built a life brick by brick. The lake house expanded to a home with a nursery wing. Though kids remained a maybe. Surrogacy talks tentative over wine-soaked evenings. Denver embraced us. Pride Grand Marshals 1 June. Our faces on billboards hawking Forward Together campaigns. The city's pulse sinking our own. But peace is fragile turf. Easily torn. The betrayal that redefined us arrived subtly. In the fall of our 5th anniversary. As leaves gilded Washington Park. Russ's phone buzzed during a backyard barbecue. Rec kids long grown. Now alums grilling with their own crews, and his face drained of color. Stepping inside with a murmured work, I followed, gut twisting, finding him in the study, staring at a grainy email attachment, photos, us at Vail years back. Hot tub steam cloaking but not concealing. Time-stamped by a drone's lens. Anonymous, he said, voice hollow, forwarding it to our lawyer. But the angle. Eldridge IP bounce. Tommy, cleaned up, but grudges fester like untreated turf. We locked it down, security upgrades. Alerts on, but paranoia seated. Glances at games sharpening. My pre-snap reads scanning crowds for ghosts. Conflict brewed through November. Playoffs seating us high. But Russ withdrew, late nights diagramming. Excuses piling like snowdrifts. Stress, he'd claim. Collapsing beside me exhausted. Our sex reduced to perfunctory grapples. His mind elsewhere. I confronted over Thanksgiving turkey. Knife paused mid-carve. Talk, coach. Or this house becomes a hotel, he exhaled, setting down his fork with deliberate calm. It's Lila. Cancer breast. Stage 3. Won't fight it. Says she's tired. Wants to go home to Eldridge. The words landed like a safety blitz. Stealing breath. His sister. Our bridge to fractured family. Now fraying it anew. She asked me to come. Alone. Family business, she called it. Things you don't need dragged into. Hurt spiked. Irrational but real. Alone? After everything? We're family. Russ. The fight spilled, me accusing secrecy. Him defending boundaries, and ended with doors slamming. Me crashing at a teammate's. The lake house echoing empty. Reconciliation came dawn. Him on the doorstep with coffee and contrition. Eyes shadowed. You're right. Always have been. We drove to Boulder that day. His hand in mine over the console. Spilling. Lila's will. Naming him executor. But with strings. Unspoken expectations from cousins who'd shunned us. Property in Eldridge tainted by memory. It's not betrayal, he said. Voice cracking. It's chains I thought cut. We faced it tandem. Flight to Kansas. Winter wheat stubble sharp underfoot. The ranch house sagging like old regrets. Lila, frail but fierce in her chenille robe, hugged us both, me lingering, her whisper, keep him whole. And in her hospice room, amid monitors' beeps, she confessed, Tommy's hand in the drone pics, paid off by a cousin's grudge over inheritance. Boys like you, she rasped, squeezing Russ's hand. You make the rest of us braver. Her passing in December was quiet, snow muffling the world, us at bedside, his grief a storm I weathered with silent holds. Funeral in Eldridge, pews half full, whispers like dry leaves, Tommy in the back, eyes downcast, a nod our only amends. Russ spoke, eulogy a love letter to flawed kin, and we left lighter, ashes scattered on the family plot, chains finally snapped. Climax roared in February, Super Bowl LI bound against the Pats, Hard Rock Stadium a cauldron of 70,000 souls. Pre-game nerves jangled like loose chains, but Russ's ritual grounded, hotel suite. His hands oiling my shoulders, massage turning intimate, fingers tracing spine, mouth following, taking me to edge with expertise. For luck, he murmured, flipping me for reciprocation. Our 69 a symphony of gasps, release syncing like perfect timing. Kickoff was war. Brady dissecting us early, up 14-3, my picks stinging like lashes. Halftime tunnel, Russ crashed the circle band, but defiant clapping my helmet. Eyes up. Heart forward. Third quarter surge, 50-yard bomb to Sutton. Pick six off Mac Jones. Crowds roar drowning doubt. Final drive, down 28-27. 2 minutes. I orchestrated draws, slants, audibles called on instinct, and hit pay dirt. 2-yard keeper, 33-28 seal. Confetti Armageddon, Lombardi in my grasp. But the rush was Russ storming the field. Our embrace broadcast worldwide. Kiss brief but bold. Cheers drowning trolls. MVP podium, mic in hand. This is for the lockers we shattered, the bonds we built. For Russ, my coach, my husband, my always. Afterglow stretched. Parade down 16th Street Mall. Ticker tape blizzard. Our float waving to seas of blue. But humanism-tempered triumph, speeches on mental health, donations to queer youth sports, Russ and I founding a foundation, shattered to Unbroken, scholarships for small-town dreamers. Years later, retired jersey in the hall, Russ's Buffs national champs, us gray at the temples on the lake porch, adopted twins romping the dock, their laughter echoing our own rediscoveries. Betrayal's faded scars, conflict's chapters closed, but the romance endured. Anniversaries with Corey drives, hands linked over console, his thumb tracing my ring. In the end, it's not the touchdowns or the rings, but the huddle, the raw, human circle where tears unlock truths, and love, defiant and deep, calls the final play, forward, always unbroken.